this sort of conversation is about the customization of ad technology and marketing technology. And today we have, it's a fireside chat, and today we have two gentlemen who kind of work in that world. So, first of all, we have Derek O'Neill, who works with IPonweb. Sorry, I should have went to Oliver first, but Derek works at IPonweb, and IPonweb are specialists in building customized technology. They build tech to spec. Is that fair to say, Derek?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
And you could argue that they've built half the ad tech ecosystem, but that's all obviously up for debate. And then we've got Oliver from Zalando, and obviously Zalando are a fairly sizable e-commerce player in the European market, spun out of Rocket Internet, and currently the biggest RTB buyer in Europe. Is that correct, Oliver?
That's correct, yeah.
Probably second in the world. So this is actually an advertiser that's using the real-time ecosystem. So Oliver, I just want to go to you first, talk about your approach. I'm going to talk about the team structure, strategy around buying internally in Zalando, and how do you work with the third parties? I mean, obviously you work with a lot of retargeters, you work with a lot of technology vendors. How does that relationship work, and how do you manage sort of the marketing and tech analytics strategy internally? How does that all fit together? I know it's a big question, but
big question. So let's see. First, how are we structured internally? So we do have two very different departments. One really taking care of display advertising. So they're working operationally. They're making the decisions on which tools to use when doing real-time bidding, when trying out different DSPs, etc. So we have one display advertising team with dedicated RTB resources, because from our point of view, it's a strategic asset to really evolve in the whole RTB sphere. On the other hand, we also have a data team, a marketing intelligence team that is really taking care of all the data. I mean, everybody's talking about big data. We have two separate data warehouses, one really taking all the customer data, product data, etc. And then we have a separate marketing data warehouse taking in all the data. And those two departments are really working very closely together, especially with the RTB task force, in order to make the maximum of our first-party data, which is really important in order to do efficient real-time bidding. And so this is roughly how we work internally.
So how much of this does influence any decision on a bespoke tech approach? I mean, you are quite a big player now. I mean, you work with a lot of third parties, and you're at the point where, wow, we've this huge ecosystem, we have all this first-party data. Is it time for us to build our own tech? So how does your current situation sort of influence whether or not you go down the road of building or using an off-the-shelf solution?
Our approach right now, the whole ecosystem is still developing a lot. And so there's still lots of movement, and speaking for us, we still don't know which is the winning strategy in the end in RTB, but this is why we're really trying a lot. So we're trying a lot with off-the-shelf solutions. There's many players out there that are going for different approaches. We're trying a lot of them. And then, yeah, as you can tell when entering our site and looking at all the pixels.
Lots of tags.
Yeah, lots of tags.
You keep following me around the internet, you know that.
Yeah, I believe that. And, but however, I mean, we're trying out all those different players, and then we really need to see which flexibility each individual player gives in order to customize their off-the-shelf solution for our needs, and where we really have to see how flexible are they. Our business, fashion e-commerce, is something that provides a very unique data set that we need to take into account, and off-the-shelf solutions are not good enough in the end to win the market. So we're really trying to come from off-the-shelf solutions, try to find a partner that offers bespoke approaches to our needs, and then maybe someday we'll even go and build with our own resources, our own technology around RTB.
Derek, when you're managing linking all those disparate tech pieces and data sets together, I mean, does this or should this require a customized approach? I mean, we've seen we've seen the first iteration of this space where we've had some fantastic players like Criteo and others who've done some retargeting on behalf of big players like Zalando and others. At what stage when you're linking all those really, really rich data sets to your tech, do you think that customization becomes an issue?
Well, I guess what we've seen over the various stages of the type of platforms we're building, the nature of the platforms we're building now has changed significantly from 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, we were building the DSPs, we were building the agency trading desks. And they were the guys at sort of the forefront of understanding and defining what is RTB and how is that useful and powerful, like an impression by impression decision, the ability to bring some data-driven decisioning over the top of that. They took that forward and they promoted that and they sold it to their clients, the end advertiser. And the advertiser started with it skeptically, grew enthusiasm for it, and then came to learn what that actually meant. And came to learn that, well, we've actually got these enormously powerful data repositories. We know our customers, it's our first-party data. Why don't we expose that and use that? We understand our users, our customers, their journey to becoming a client, a participant, a customer. We have all this amazing knowledge. We should use that in our media buying activity. Now, our clients that are working with us on the demand side, they help that educative process, and they start to change and shape their stacks to make use of that. They import and work out how to expose these data sets. We there see larger advertisers that are not clients of our clients, frustrated by the other stacks out there that are not necessarily based on IPonweb technology, don't necessarily have the degrees of flexibility and adaptability, coming forward to us saying, we're aware that this is now possible. We've started coining the phrase internally, the enterprise media trading system. The enterprise media trading system. We see it sort of analogous to other enterprise assets, IT assets. So, the CRM system and the econometric modeling, so all your SaaS tools, these powerful
analytics tools.
Yeah, in the early stage of these tools that you're using for the early stages of STP, where we're going to play, how we're going to play, what's the product we're going to bring forward, the MarTech. Media trading is becoming, side by side, part of this IT asset set.
So are you seeing, sort of coming together of parts of ad tech and the MarTech stack, and it'd be interesting to, deeper integrations into the sort of, CRMs, et cetera, and sort of.
Yeah, the way I like to think about it is if you think of the broader cycle of strategic marketing, right? We're going to enter. We're thinking about a brand or a product. We're going to take it into this market segment. This is where we're going to play. This is what we're going to own. And you go through a strategizing formulation process. We're going to do tactical execution on that, and you start to get into things like, what are your CRM systems? What are your email list management systems? What are the types of campaigns you're going to execute? How are you going to sort of work in the social sphere? And media buying by RTB is one of those tactical tools. Yeah. You run that for a while, and depending on your feedback loop, that effectively your plan, act, analyze loop leverages MarTech and in our case, ad tech for buying. The joy of real-time bidding and algorithmic approaches is you can take what's this slower cycle loop and start to work out which bits of it actually go down into the machine level. Can be changing and adapting the behavior under the guidelines of your larger, plan, act, plan, do, analyze cycle. And so, yeah, we definitely see that, we would like to think that ad tech is a subset of MarTech.
There was an interesting, I would just make a sort of drop a name here, but I was at the AppNexus conference in San Francisco, and they did have Terry Kawaja on stage, and he was talking about how ad tech there should be no Lumiscapes anymore, that eventually it'll be all MarTech. It'd be interesting to see how, our space integrates with the greater marketing stack within Zalando. How do you sort of differ those, and how are they integrating now? I mean, obviously there's deeper dives going into your customer base and how you actually execute plans as well.
Yeah. I think from what you're saying, I think the idea is totally right to have all that stuff integrated. However, currently we don't see a solution that offers like everything. So we just have to really...
Well, I think the reason for that is there is no single advertiser out there who is a generic advertiser, right? Everybody has a different consumer journey. Everybody has a different positioning, market segmentation they're chasing, a different way they want to position themselves, different data sets that reflect that. And to map the media buying logic to fulfill your consumer journey using the data sets that you have, it's very tough to have anybody bring forward a generic solution for that. And that's where deep customization starts to come into play.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Totally true. And this is why I believe that there's always going to be MarTech and AdTech. And I mean, I don't know if it's always going to be there, but right now there is no way of really integrating those two. We don't see a solution like you're saying. We have such unique requirements towards AdTech, towards MarTech. So
is there a link between the two of them within Zalando? I mean,
yeah,
when you talk type of integrations, what sort of what would an advertiser think about in that scenario? Would it be like the data piece, or how would that work? I mean, how would they link together?
Mm-hmm. So there is, I mean, there is a sort of like DMP. So all our data is collected together, and that is being analyzed by MarTech. And MarTech really, in the end, gives budgets to certain channels. So what we have to think about all day long is like attributing our budget. We have a big budget, so we need to split it into different channels. We have to really take branding effects also into account. And this is what MarTech does, but it also needs to deliver all the data in order to do effective real-time bidding, for example. So this is where there is a connection in between MarTech and AdTech, where data is handed over and where we really make full use of the data that we have in our warehouse.
I mean, the importance of data is obviously clear in this ecosystem. I mean, we're coming to a point where we've got white label, or sorry, open source bidders, and people are billing bidders every day. But at the end of the day, it's the first party data that's the most important. I mean, how important is that in terms of the strategy that you have in terms of building a ad tech platform or an internal ad tech platform? Is that the catalyst for like making this decision?
It's a big thing to build your very own solution. That requires lots and lots of tech resources in order to build it. Open source could be something that's the basis in the end. So if we take the decision, okay, we believe that we have so much knowledge in-house, we don't want to rely on some service providers any longer. If there is an open source technology that we can build upon, then we may consider. However, it's only theoretical, because right now we're not really in the process of doing that.
The promise of RTB Kit it was called RTB Kit from the Data Credit guys, the open source
RTB Kit, yeah.
And I think there's a Google one that's coming through, is to take away the difficult technical computing part of RTB. So there are some things in RTB that are just very tough problems. The high volume, sheer number of connections you got to handle simultaneously, the machine resource management, all the network and data layers, etc. that go with that. Ultimately, and certainly this is the approach within the IPonweb technology stack, ultimately you want to sort of abstract all that to a point that the customer journey and the logic that you're trying to execute in leveraging this data to talk the conversation to the customer on the customer journey is a fairly simple, scriptable way, or a simple way to implement and deliver that logic for your particular use case, your customer journey. And that's, potentially the promise of some of this open source stuff. Yeah. We have been executing on that strategy for many years. That's the core of what we do. So we wait and see will these open source initiatives actually get some traction.
So let's just flash forward about 3 or 4 years. Let's say that a lot of the big e-commerce players, a lot of direct response players, even some of the big brand guys decide to bring it in-house. Will we see a new breed of provider? and how they work with companies like yourself. I mean, let's talk about the agency, right? The agency model in particular. Does it have to evolve its model to work with big brands or big companies like yourself? I know you don't work with an agency, but let's say the way they work currently. Let's say that you have the vendor relationship, you license the technology. Does the agency have to offer something more like bespoke data or even trading ability or trading expertise, and then work on a pricing model that it's not a typically agency pricing model? Well, that's a big question, obviously, but
difficult to answer. I think it depends a lot on how or what advertisers really want to keep in-house from a knowledge perspective. So is there a market for agencies really evolving on this? There's very few players out there that have the in-house capabilities that we have. We have a very big team that's structured around that. So for many others, I believe that agencies that certain solutions by service providers will always be an important part of their advertising strategy. If there's really going to be a new breed, I honestly can't tell, but I'd question whether it's not already out there. I mean, there's so many different different approaches.
WPP bought Accelerator, which was a consultancy business. Do you think, Derek, that the future agency model might look more like a Accenture or an IBM?
We certainly see our relationship with our demand clients, DSPs and agency trading desks, is changing as they start to engage the advertisers more deeply on building these stacks. From our perspective as a technology vendor and the consulting layer to support folks understanding what they're buying from us, is those demand players are actually starting to look to us like value-added resellers, i.e. Accentures, these type of folks. Those clients of ours have invested for many years into building capabilities to know how to talk the tech talk they need to talk to us. We're engineers, we talk use cases, and you need to sort of position and get things in a point that we're ready to build it. They've built that capability. Not many folks on the other side of them have the ability to have that conversation directly with a firm like ours. And so in that case, the agency, yes, it's doing creative and brand strategy and media planning and et cetera, but it's now also starting to play this role of, from our perspective, a value-added reseller, how to shape the execution of the tech stack for the advertiser itself.
But surely they have to bring that competency in-house at the minute. The agencies are not.
Agency?
Yeah, the agency's not really built for that, though.
Well, it's not an easy thing to develop. That capability. We see, we have clients who are doing it very well. We see clients making a complete mess of it. And they're folks that have the skills to both understand the business story. Why are we positioning like this? What are we building? What is our consumer journey? What's the marketing speak? And then turn around and turn that into use case specification and engineering. Understand the architecture it's going to get executed. It's rare you can ever find an individual with those skills. You need to build teams that are complementing each other, and they're tough skills to build.
Okay. I think we're nearly finished. I think is that enough? Yeah, I think we've got one more presentation. I want to thank the gentlemen for taking their time. Round of applause for the guys. Thank you.